Welcome to the 33rd Wings Over the Platte art exhibition here at Stuhr Museum. We're in the upper level of the Leo Stuhr building. And once again, I'm joined by Brad Mellema. He's the Executive Director of Grand Island Tourism. And we were just here, it seems like a year ago, when COVID was just getting started and we were masked up and we took people through this exhibition. We're going to do it again.
We are. It's hard to believe that it has been 1 year. It's hard to believe it's 33 years for the Wings Over the Platte. You go back in that period in time and cranes were sort of, quote, being discovered by the general public.
That's right.
Wildlife and birders knew about it, but Stuhr Museum and Grand Island began to celebrate cranes in a real significant way in about that time frame. And congratulations to you for having a great show for 33 years. It's just terrific.
Thank you, Brad. And it is a deep show. We're going to take a few of the pieces for this particular presentation, and we're going to talk a little bit more about them in depth. But we're going to let Brad talk a little bit first about what all this crane migration has meant to this part of the state, why it's important. We'll talk a little bit about tourism and why it's important to come out and partake in these things.
Well, Chris, I was talking to Dr. Paul Johnsgaard a few years ago. He's a noted ornithologist from Nebraska, professor at University of Nebraska, a bird guy. And I was talking to him, this has been several years back, and he goes, Brad, I can hardly wait till the cranes come again. And he's been seeing them for more than 50 years. And each year, there's something about this time of year that's magical, that the return of the cranes represents so much. And you do begin to crave that time with the birds. And they are neat to see, they're a sight to hear, and artists and photographers have been trying to capture their essence for millennia. They really have. I mean, it's something that goes back into prehistory here in Nebraska.
Right.
Native American tribes have used the hollow bones of cranes to create flutes and musical instruments. Those things are documented.
Right.
And it's fantastic that connection to the Platte River and the birds. This is the time when the cranes, lots of other birds too, but cranes are big and loud, kind of like us.
Yeah.
So we like to pay attention to them.
Yeah.
And this is the time they've been down in Texas, they've been down in New Mexico, they've been down in Old Mexico, the country, and they've eaten everything they can down there, and their clock is telling them it's time to head north. So here they come to the Platte River. They fly up into this area. It might only take them a few days to fly here at most. Depends on the weather, depends on some things. But the first birds are here. The Platte's frozen, but there are birds here, and they rest, refuel, they consume Nebraska's great waste grains that we have to fatten up a little bit, and they're headed north to nest to Canada, Alaska, even Siberia.
And they've been doing this for 10,000 years.
They have. It predates the Platte River.
Wow.
It predates the Platte River. So over time, these migrations have formed, and this time that they're here, there's bonding, there's pair bonding, they play, they argue, they do everything that a junior high school hallway might experience at Sandbar in the Platte can do as well. So I can't wait to look at the art that we have on display here at the Wings exhibit for this year. It truly is exciting. Tourism, there are opportunities for people to come to the area and see the cranes. The Crane Trust is not going to be running normal though. We're allowing people to do self-guided tours. There are a few local areas where people can get into some viewing blinds.
And there's some virtual options too, right? There
are virtual options. As I'm a member here at Stuhr, I'm also a member at the Crane Trust. And so for a small fee, you can join that, and they'll do live presentations. You can wake up to the sound of those birds right in your home. And so we're encouraging people to do just that. Give us a call at the Visitor Bureau. Go to visitgrandisland.com, or better yet, go to seethecranes.com and get some information on how to plan what might be best for you and your family this year to enjoy the migration.
And come out here to Stuhr Museum and see this wonderful show. Let's go look at some artwork.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
So we are here in front of a wonderful piece by artist Julie Crocker. It's done in acrylic, And it's a beautiful scene of the Platte River with some cranes out. I suppose they're in the sun and they're doing their thing. They're feeding. It's tough to tell what time of day it is, but one of the things that I love about this piece, Brad, and I love it about Julie's work, she's one of those artists that you can come up to a piece and the tonality of her work instantaneously tells you who the artist is. And she's got wonderful detail with acrylic, and as a painter myself, I know how difficult it is to work in this medium. It is tough, and she makes it look very easy.
Well, some of the detail that you see, this golden or this amber color on the wings of the birds, there's a naturalness to that. Also, where they're at in the red deserts down in Texas or Mexico, when they preen, that dust will literally get into their feathers, and you'll see certain birds, depending on where they overwinter, and you'll begin to see some of that type of tonality there.
That's fascinating.
The Platte River, too, I mean, we're looking at a painting here, but this transports me there. I can almost hear and smell the river landscape that we're seeing here. Not to be overlooked, looks like maybe a merganser back there, maybe some pintails that she's very nicely put in there, and the layered look of the Platte River.
Very much so, and the textures that she brings to us, it almost gives it that feeling of dimensionality that sometimes you don't get in two-dimensional work.
Yeah, it does. This is an extraordinary piece, and my hat's off to the talents of Julie and being able to create or recreate this scene that we've so often seen out on the Platte.
She's been a featured artist at Wings Over the Platte before, and we look forward to when she returns as a featured artist. Brad, we're taking a look at Karen Neppel's, what I guess I would consider an abstract work. It is certainly the brightest colored piece in Wings Over the Platte. And Karen is known, lately anyway, she's a very gifted, very talented artist, but she's known for this Picasso technique, where she uses that kind of Picasso feel to create these geometric shapes into something else. And what she's created here is a beautiful origami crane.
I walked by this and I said, whoa, that's drastically different than anything else in the show. The colors are magnificent, and instantly I saw the origami crane. There's the head, there's the neck, the wings are back in here, and the body right here. And we have so much fun teaching young children that come out to the nature centers how to do origami cranes. Literally, there's a lore over in the Orient related to cranes that are deeply held over there. And the origami has made its way over here, of course, and they do these beautiful hangings. Go to the nature centers and you can see the origami cranes. So Karen has done a terrific job with the color explosion here. Might also mention that she is owner and operator of Studio K Gallery here in Grand Island. Upcoming events, if you want to check on those types of things to see more of her work and all kinds of regional artists.
And she does so much for the arts here in this region with that gallery. So it's a beautiful place to go and share or partake in art. One of the things with this piece is that really stands out to me and that draws me to it, as Karen's work always does, is just her use of, definitive color, shape, and turning it into something that is just seamless and beautiful. You go to her gallery and you see some of her Picasso faces, for example. The lines are so sharp, and you'd think that it would feel harsh, but it really doesn't. And that's because you see the tones that she's used with the paint to move from soft to more bold, and she just got a great technique in doing it.
Well, this is why you need an artist to look at things like the migration. She's looking at it through a pair of glasses that I would have never imagined. And so thank you to her for helping me to look at this thing. I recognized what it was because of the experience I had with origami cranes. But I'm telling you, this is radically different than anything here. And as an artist, you love to see things that are very, very much different.
We really do. It's a beautiful piece. Let's move on.
I know just south of the little town of Hartwell, there is a farm, and our friend Sally Juergensmeyer does amazing work out there, and it has been so fun to watch her work evolve over the years. First of all, her work is just plain fun. It's attainable. I have a piece of hers in our garden at home. It's a beautiful flower that we have with some glass integrated into that. And we've enjoyed that over the years. But when I came into this piece here, I just stopped and stared into it. The finish, it's just a really well done fabricated piece out of metal.
It's absolutely stunning. And what I like about Sally's work is that connection to agriculture and the farming community, where she's taken metals that are typically harsh and represent machinery and, I don't know, industrialization in agriculture and all those things, and she's made them into somehow the softness of nature, comes out of these kind of hard metal pieces. And she's actually taken that a step further, I've noticed in her work, now by adding those splashes of color in these,
and there's a finish on here too. There's a sheen to it. So she's done something good. I'm not sure what it is to create that. And if you've had a chance to ever get to her place near Hartwell, you go down south and her farm is full of old machinery where you have all these various components that she has fabricated into these things. The other thing about her is her smile and her laughter just comes through in her work, and this is really, really an outstanding sculpture.
It really is. Her smile, her laughter, her demeanor is infectious, as is her artwork, and it's very accessible. We look at what Sally offers to an art lover. It is incredibly affordable to get into a wonderful piece of fine art. And if you want to start collecting art, Sally Jurgensmeyer is a great place.
We've certainly done that, and I think people should certainly consider this piece for theirs or some of her other work that she has. You'll find her around central Nebraska in a lot of art shows, and so I hope people have a chance to enjoy the way you and I have on this piece here.
Truly. We'll go on to the next piece. So I am blown away at Danielle Easdale's work that is here at Wings Over the Platte this year. So most people who encounter this work, she's an Omaha-based artist, by the way, they're going to encounter this work and they may think that it's a photograph or a painting if they just walk by. But if you look close, this is actually sculpted, cut out of paper, layered paper, and she uses an X-Acto knife to get these layers. What do you think, Brett?
It's terrific. It really is. Okay, we've got a barn owl and perhaps a golden eagle here. And when you get up close to this and you begin to examine it, my apologies, you really probably can't do it through Mike's camera here, but it is outstanding. The depth of the eyes. This is just a terrific piece of art.
And I think technically speaking, we look at artistry and the technical difficulty of creating something that is beautiful. It changes in degrees. This has to be at the high end of being really difficult, I have to imagine.
Yeah, I tell my students at Hastings College that when they have to mount images at the end of the semester, which they're doing right now, if you were the kid in kindergarten that couldn't cut and glue very well, you're probably still that person.
Right.
I have a feeling that Danielle could cut and glue very well at a very young age. Wow.
I agree with you, and these two pieces are a must-see this year, so get to Wings Over the Platte and check these things out.
All right, let's talk a little bit about my friend Jorn Olson, a photographer based out of Hastings, Nebraska. And Jorn's imagery not only crosses Nebraska, most of the counties I think are represented in his portfolio, but he's launched out to the Midwest and a lot of other places. And something about a Jorn Olson photo, they have depth to them because of some of the techniques that he uses in his photography. But look at the light. Photography is all about the light. You're chasing the light with that camera and attempting to find those glimpses, and he certainly has done that. The juxtaposition of the storm clouds with the sun peeking through there over a very nice scene, perhaps somewhere on a small pond or near the Platte River.
Right. You've talked to me about that layering before, and I want you as a photographer yourself, Brett, to kind of share a little bit more using this piece, because what I see in this piece, what I'm drawn to that makes it different to me than other pieces, is how crisp those trees are. They're way out there. So how does he do that?
Well, the details, First of all, he has very nice camera equipment and good technique. So he's doing this on a tripod. He's flipping up the mirror so that there's absolutely no movement to it. But he will literally take 2 or 3 photos of a scene at different exposures, and you, in the computer, sandwich those together. And you take the very best detail of the darks, the very best detail of the lights, and the computer can help guide a photographer to really creating a high dynamic range image. And Jorn is an absolute master at that technique.
He really is, and this is another one of those pieces that you've got to be here to really appreciate it, because you really feel like you've got this storm advancing on you, chasing the light in front of it.
Yeah, and storms is kind of where he got his start. There's some storms years ago that came through. He got some amazing clouds photographs, and that really launched his career as a photographer. So again, Jorn's got a couple of pieces, I think, in here, and he's got some other place in the building here. And you'll see his stuff all over, frankly, because it's been well sold.
And his studio is in Hastings, Nebraska.
It is, right on Main Street downtown. Grand Island-based photographer Doug Steinke is the featured artist at Wings this year. And one of the things you want to do as a photographer and artist is know your subject. He is deeply immersed in the waterfowl hunting culture and spends a lot of time on the river and out in the field. And he is a talented photographer at capturing the moment. And what caught our eye about this particular image, this has got nostalgia wrapped up in it too. I mean, who hasn't, anyone that's done some hunting like that, you've got the eager dog there, you've got an insanely good composition here with this image. This one's printed on metal, it just stands out beautifully.
Yeah, and we're surrounded in the Dinsdale Gallery here by these images on metal. The photographs are printed on metal, and it is extraordinary, just splashes of color all over these walls. And when you talk about nostalgia, in this particular piece, it encompasses so much for me. Growing up out here, walking down a gravel road, you get the graymage, you got the sunset or sunrise, either or, you got the dog so eager to go.
Let's face it, when you go hunting, the memories are made, but there's a lot of work, there's a lot of waiting, the action is just very fleeting, frankly. And so what he's done with a lot of these images is they take you through the beauty of the scenes that you're seeing, through the waterfowl, the bird shots that he has, and then of course, what it is, the culture of waterfowl hunting.
In a very human way, just showcasing the humanity of what happens here annually at different times of the year, as hunting is such a big part of our culture. So Brad, I think this is my favorite piece in the entire show. This is a photograph of a pheasant, but you have to do a double, triple take because I truly believe this looks like a painting.
Yeah, the colors are magnificent. This is that metal print process. Really causes it, I'll use the word, it pops out colorfully, not unlike some of the art we saw upstairs earlier. It really is magnificent. A detailed shot of these birds. It's a macro photograph. That iridescent quality of that bird is amazingly depicted with this.
And you were talking a little bit about how pheasants got here, which is also an interesting story because they're not native to the United States.
They are not.
They're prolific, though.
They are. The pheasant was introduced in Oregon back in that 100-plus year ago category as a game bird, and they've done very well here, obviously. They now naturally propagate themselves. But yeah, the pheasant is not a native species to North America.
Beautiful birds make beautiful art.
They do. Okay, and this particular image is just exploding with excitement, with color. It checks all the boxes of what you might see with that eager dog going out for the retrieve on a duck hunt.
And the intensity is extraordinary. You can almost feel the quickening heartbeat of the dog, the focus of the dog. The other thing that I'm almost humored by is that when we did our opening reception with just Doug and his family and friends, his hunting buddies were here. And they said, Doug is always out there spoiling the hunt because he's after the shot. more so than he is after the shot. So
As a photographer myself, you're always looking for that angle, that something different to tell the story of what's going on, and he's done that so beautifully here. Hopefully it didn't ruin some hunting opportunities for some folks in his party when they were there. But this is well done, it's well displayed. Look at the frame, maybe the old barn that's here. And I don't know if we mentioned it, but most of this work is available for purchase. A few are not for sale at the artist's request. But if you drop some money onto this, Stuhr Museum benefits as well as the artist. So I encourage you to grab it. A couple of these that we've talked about have already been sold.
And you can actually purchase these online at stuhrmuseum.org this year, which is huge. And I'd like to send a special thank you to you, Brad, for coming out and doing this with me every year now since I've been here. Anyways, we're going to make this a tradition, I hope.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure to get out here to Stuhr Museum, a living history museum, but now you're displaying and celebrating the arts in a wonderful way. It's so awesome.
Thank you. And I want to thank the Nebraska Arts Council and the Nebraska Cultural Endowment, as well as Humanities Nebraska, for making all this happen. Their wonderful support of a place like Stuhr Museum allows us to enjoy this extraordinary art. Thank you so much.